Hello, good morning everybody, and thank you for attending this webinar. Welcome. My name is Stephen Porter and I'm a Regional Tutor Delivery Manager here at BSI. As we go through the presentation, if you do have any questions, please type them into the box, and what we'll do when we get to the last slide, we'll have a look and try and answer some of your questions. So what we're going to go through today, so I'll do a very quick introduction to BSI and who we are. We'll talk about what digital security is, and we'll try and give it a definition. We'll talk what it means for business. Why should we care about it? And then we'll go into a little bit about the threats we are facing, and then potentially what we can do to mitigate these threats. So just a little bit about BSI to start with. We're the leading global standards creation body covering Britain, Europe. We specialise in ISO standards as well, and it's for both public sector and private sector business. We are the UK national standards body and a source of all British standards that you've seen out there. We do standards creation, we also do training, and we also provide certification for organisations as an independent certification body. We are a global network, 80,000 different clients in 172 countries. It includes governments, it includes large global brands that you'll have heard of, but in addition to this, small to medium enterprises. We were the world's first national standards body. We were established in 1901, and we are a founding member of the International Organisation for Standardisation. We've shaped the world's most adopted standards, including 9001, 14001, OSAS 18001, and we're a Royal Charter company. That all our profits are reinvested into our business to improve clients' experience and to create and develop more standards. So the first thing I want to talk about then, what digital security or cyber security, it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's part of a larger information security issue. And as it says on the slide there, it's actually all about protecting yourself, and from a more corporate level, protecting your network when it's connected to the internet. Okay. I just want to run a quick poll before we move on and talk about how this is specific to business. So what does it mean to business then? Why should we be bothered about cyber security? During a poll that was done last year around large information security breaches, it was discovered that 90%, that's 9 out of 10 of large organisations, were happy to admit that they've had some sort of information security breach. Okay, which is a phenomenal number of organisations. When it came to small organisations, the number was slightly less. Okay, but it was 74%. So we're talking about around 3/4 of small organisations there. Okay, I always kind of caveat these statistics, if you will, with the fact that these are the organisations that actually know that they've had a breach. Okay, there's a lot of very technical and very skilled people out there who can get into your networks without you actually knowing about it. So it's just something to think about. These organisations that have admitted this, it's actually only the ones, okay, who know about it. What does it cost? Okay, so carrying on for the large organisations when they've had a breach, it's coming in at around £1.5 to £3 million. Okay, that it's cost for that breach. So that's to recover and then to put action in place to try and ensure that it never happens again. Obviously, this is the same for small organisations, but you know the number isn't as much. This is we're talking about £75,000 to around £310,000 per breach. The new general data protection regulations are coming in, which is going to have an effect on the majority of us. I'm going to talk a little bit just before we finish, but just bear in mind that when the fines start coming in for the new regulations after the cut-off point in 2018, they're going to target your global revenue. Okay, so it's likely that these kind of breaches are going to cost you more. Okay, so where's the threat coming from then? Well, obviously the external threats, so external to your organisations. We've got our criminal hackers. They're the ones, you know, the type of people who They don't want to walk into banks anymore with guns. That's far too dangerous. They'd much rather steal personal data and then be able to sell it on to people who wish to commit fraud. Terrorists, okay, they're getting a little bit more sophisticated in their attacks. They might wish to bring down networks and disrupt governments and organisations. But certainly industrial espionage, so where it says industrial spies there, you've put a lot of work, your organisation, into the development and design of new products that you wish to launch out in the marketplace. If that information is to be compromised, your competitors won't have to recoup as much research and development money and can potentially launch a product almost identical to yours without having to, a little bit cheaper, if you will. The internal threat that we have to consider as well, authorised users, people that you actually trust to have access to your network, can actually cause security breaches. A lot of it is accidental, yeah. There's minimal security training sometimes when you've given people access to this information. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as we go through. So the accidental threat is always there. We always have the disgruntled employee as well, so the deliberate theft maybe of your data. So that's always in the back of your mind as a deliberate threat from inside. But we've also got the internet. Now, the internet is a fantastic business tool. It means that you can connect with the outside world, you can connect timelessly with your customers, but it also brings with it its own threats. Yeah? It means that your data, your information, has potentially got a link to the outside world, which is where the solutions that I'm going to talk about come in to help us mitigate against that threat. A significant business issue, I think definitely. If we talk now specifically about cyber security and cyber attacks, we're talking about 91% of the organisations have had some sort of cyber attack, some sort of successful penetration into their network, okay, via whatever means, probably remotely. Okay, you no longer have to be co-located with an organisation that you want to attack. 72% of organisations where security policy was poorly understood had staff-related breaches. Okay, I'm going to come back to this stat in about 30 seconds. I just wanted to show it. 73% of organisations suffered infection by viruses or some sort of malicious software. That will have come into your network probably via the internet, or maybe by a user not understanding the policy properly, clicking on links in emails, bringing USB sticks into the organisation, that kind of threat. But it's a statistic. 60% of organisations have no other information security training. Okay, maybe aside from when induction of new people, but these are the same organisations. So of the 72% who said they've had a breach where it was poorly understood policy that had been to blame, 60% of those didn't provide information security training, okay, which is a staggering amount when actually they can probably see what the cause is, but then choose not to do anything about it. The fact is, and in my opinion, top management can sometimes see information security as something that doesn't drive profit. Yeah, it doesn't create revenue, and therefore it can sometimes just be overlooked. And what happens is it then becomes a little bit reactionary, yeah, and you have a reactive focus on it, which means shutting the stable door when the horse has bolted, potentially. 28% of the worst security breaches were caused by senior management giving insufficient priority on security, as I've already mentioned. Okay, this is the important fact, though, that all these statistics are backed up by. A third of consumers admit they do not trust any organisation with their personal data. So that's irrespectful of any breach that has occurred, anything that's been in the media that they've read about that organisation. They don't trust us anyway. Okay, so when the breaches occur and they get to the forefront of the media, that's when we have the issues, okay, with customer perception. How can we help? Well, there's a couple of things that we can do. BSI through SBN can offer bespoke professional services to your organisation. Yeah. Firstly, around the larger scope of information security, we need to protect against these external and these internal threats. SBN has the expertise to offer to clients on identification, protection, compliance and management of their information. This is to ensure the confidentiality, integrity and availability, which are the three core elements of information security. Okay. Second thing, the e-discovery and digital forensics. They also have the expertise to provide comprehensive litigation support. They have legal advisors and can do sound digital investigations. A lot of us are using cloud-based solutions. It helps reduce capital expenditure, but obviously it brings with its own risks. So we can get cloud assurance through BSI, SBN through there. If something has happened, or we want to prepare in the event of incident, SBN's incident response services can be proactive and reactive, and make sure that you as an organisation are equipped with the necessary skills on how to respond and how to act in the event of a data breach. We don't want to underreact, if you will, but we don't want to overreact. There's a difference between a security incident and a security event. Okay. Next part I want to just mention about pen testing and vulnerability scanning. There is a difference between penetration testing and vulnerability scanning. Penetration testing is examining IT systems for weaknesses that could be used by an attacker to disrupt the confidentiality, availability, integrity of a network, and highlight any issues that you wish to address before they can be exploited. Whereas vulnerability scanning is all about known vulnerabilities, and identifying those in an organisation's systems, and seeing that we can reduce the technical exposure to those issues. Okay. There's PCI, which is the payment card industry, which you can be certified to. This is a data security standard which is mandated by card providers. Okay. There's also Cyber Essentials, which I am going to get to in a minute. Okay. Just out of interest, that second poll that we did there, 76% of the people attending this webinar have said yes, that they've had a cyber security breach. So those, it kind of marries up with the research that was done last year. Okay. As well as the professional services side of it, there's also training courses. Now BSI run a number of training courses around information security. We do implementation to international standards, where we can guide you through the processes that you need to put in place to build a framework around your information assurance. We also run auditing courses, where we can teach you how to audit your processes and ensure that they're relevant and achieving the outcomes that you desire, i.e. the protection of your confidentiality, integrity and availability. We can run these public, so you can send individuals out as part of a proactive approach to training, education and awareness, or we can actually run the courses in-house, so we can come to you. The trainer will come to your organisation and work directly with you. Okay. There's a wide range of other training around implementing and auditing to relevant standards that are already in place, and including the new General Data Protection Regulation that we know has come into force. We do have some specialist training courses though, not necessarily aimed at the beginner. It's probably not the right thing to send an absolute beginner on these courses. But these are run through BSI SBN as well. We have a Certified Information System Security Professional qualification. This is aimed at security professionals to give basically a measure of their competence. Okay, it has a number of topics, and you need to have a sound knowledge of them all before you go and start taking the exam. But it does take into consideration those things that we understand: cloud computing, mobile devices, application security, risk management, etc. The Certified Information Systems Audit qualification is globally recognised as well for information security audit. This is all about building up and adding on to expertise and knowledge required to identify the critical issues, so that we can build trust and gain value for our information systems. The Certified Information System Manager is another one around the management of information rather than the operation of it. It's globally accepted for individuals, and it can build up and help you manage the whole enterprise that you use for managing your information security. The Certified Ethical Hacker qualification is a really good course for people that are responsible for the IT infrastructure. It teaches you to the basics of penetration testing, and helps you develop your knowledge and actually what you might become subject to. It does require quite an in-depth knowledge of networking, and again, it isn't an entry-level qualification. The final one on that, the Certified Information Privacy Manager, is the world's first and only certification in privacy program management, and it teaches the individual privacy program administration and how to establish, maintain and manage a privacy program across all stages of its life cycle. Basically, we're talking about this cradle to grave, for that personally identifiable information. Just showing you this slide here, I'm not suggesting that it's necessarily a sequential, chronological journey. It's just showing you some of the things that we can do as an organisation around these things. We have got Cyber Essentials, which I will talk about very shortly. We have ISO 27001, which is the international standard for information security. PCI DSS that I've already mentioned, payment card industry data security standards, all around those financial transactions that you make. We've got certification for cloud providers, so cloud providers can actually get an independent verification on their ability to have a mature system when they are storing, and processing your information in a cloud environment. ISO 27002, which is the code of conduct really for implementing controls around information security. 27017, which is a standard that provides guidance of the information security aspects of cloud computing. Okay, and it can help with the implementation of cloud-specific information security controls. 27018 there, which is the standard provided to ensure that cloud service providers, and the ones I'm thinking about here are Amazon, Google maybe, that protect the privacy of their customers' information, the personally identifiable information which is entrusted to them. Okay, and these kind of this supplement the 27001 certification. We've also got Cyber Essentials Plus, which is something else I will talk briefly about, and then we've got the Information Security Kitemark, which is something else that I will mention shortly. So I want to take just a very whistle-stop tour around three of the solutions that I've already met. So the first one I want to talk about is the Cyber Essentials. So this was created by UK government and industry a few years ago, and basically it's to fulfil two functions. It gives and provides a clear statement of intent to mitigate threats, specifically those that emanate from the internet. So thinking back to the slide when I showed the threats, it's those ones that are specifically coming from the internet when you get your networks connected to it. Okay. The second thing that it wants to fulfill is through certification, demonstrate to your customers, your investors, your other interested parties that the essential precautions have been taken to mitigate these specific threats that emanate from the internet. Okay, and as you can see from the slide there, it comes in basically in two flavours. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is the Cyber Essentials Basic Award. Okay, this certification is awarded basically on the giving a basic level of confidence that controls have been implemented correctly. Yeah, it's done through a verified self-assessment. So you as an organisation undertake your own self-assessment of informations of the controls necessary via a questionnaire. The controls are all set around 5 fundamental principles. It's all around boundary firewalls, where you actually connect to the internet, the secure configuration of any of your devices, the level of user access control that you've got in place, how you protect your networks from malware and infection, and then around patch management, so how you patch your networks in a timely fashion. Once you've filled out this questionnaire and then it's submitted, it's then verified by an independent certification body such as BSI to assess whether the appropriate award can be given, so the appropriate certification. Once we've got to this stage, then you can provide the IP addresses which connect you to the internet, and there will be performed an external scan, of those. Just out of interest in that, you need to find out if you own the IP addresses. If they are leased, then you need to get permission from the owner before we can do a vulnerability scan around those specific IP addresses. The second, the Cyber Essentials Plus. The first thing you've got to have, it's a Cyber Essentials minimum, so you will have to have done the questionnaire, and it will have to be verified by an external company. But this is kind of the second stage of the full Cyber Essentials piece. This stage tests whether the controls implemented are sufficient. So yes, you've put them in place. Yes, we've verified that the controls are sufficient enough to give you the certification, but actually, do they work? So this is a test against internet-based threat actors with low levels of technical capability. It will be based on vulnerability testing of the system, of the scope. So you will have decided the scope. What we're talking about there is your network perimeter. But it will test both inside and outside your perimeter. The assessment can either directly test the individual controls that have been implemented correctly, or recreate various attack scenarios. And see that they can actually compromise your systems. It does offer a higher level of assurance through use of independent testing regime. Right, so it isn't just based on your own assessment of the things you put in place. You recertify to that once a year, but it might be more frequent as necessary to meet specific procurement or customer requirements. So that's the Cyber Essentials Plus. The next thing that I want to talk about is ISO 27001. So ISO 27001 then, is the actual international standard for information security. If we look at it and compare it with the Cyber Essentials Basic that I've just been talking about, this actual scope for 27001 is larger. It doesn't really deal with it, in the framework of it. It doesn't really talk specifically about cyber attack or digital security. It wants you to identify that as an organisation, as an issue that needs to be addressed. It also wants you to understand that your information that you're trying to protect, whether it be personal information, whether it be that intellectual property, whether it be contracts, whether it be service level agreements, whatever the information is stored upon, it doesn't matter what medium. It could be digital, it could be paper, it could be knowledge that people have, knowledge, operational knowledge in their mind. And what it wants you to do is establish a framework and then mitigate against the risks using a risk management system. It's not necessarily asking us to be risk averse. It doesn't always want us to terminate the risk to our business, but it does want us to understand it and then apply appropriate controls. Just looking at that poll that's settled down now, 72% of you already hold a certification to 27001, which is encouraging. 27001 will have, from a high level point of view, will have mandated that you've considered cyber security as a risk and then put specific controls in place to mitigate against it. Within Annex A of 27001 there are 114 specific controls which can manage your information security. The standard is very specific though in not wanting you to go in, jump in feet first and apply 114 controls. It wants it to be based on risk assessment. Okay, so your own risk assessment, i.e. identifying what your information assets are, identifying how critical those information assets are, identifying the threats and the vulnerabilities, and ultimately the impact to your organisation should they be compromised with regard to confidentiality, integrity or availability. And we could be talking about two different impacts there. Quantitatively, how much is it going to cost me? Well, we saw in some of the earlier slides about cyber attacks, and even small organisations were looking at 75,000 to 110,000 or so for a single breach. But we've also got qualitatively. What's it going to cost you qualitatively? I.e. brand, reputation. Remember, a third of your customers do not trust you with their data regardless, if we're to believe what the general public have told us. It wants you to take that into account as well, and then apply appropriate controls. And you can apply controls from any source. You can use different control sets. You can have ones that are already implemented. Maybe you've got controls already implemented from another control set, PCI for instance. Okay, so that once we've got those controls in place, the standard mandates that we do a health check on the management system at regular intervals. So you come up with an audit program, and your own internal audit function will ensure that the processes you've got in place, the controls that we've put in place, are actually fit for purpose and doing their job. It's far better for internal audit function to find an issue before a customer does, or before it's published in the media. Okay, so that's all around 27001, and as I said, 72% of you have said that you have a certification, which is very encouraging. The final thing I just want to talk about is this secure digital Kitemark. This is another stage on your journey, if you like. It's there for secure digital applications or transactions, and it will help your customers and your consumers have confidence in websites or applications that you run, confidence in the levels of security controls to safeguard their financial and personal transactions. So what we're talking about is the relationship here between specific applications or specific websites, and then the interrelation between those and actually the organisation that's running them. Okay. Just in addition actually to the 30% of people who don't trust applications as a secure way to manage their money, 42% have concerns about the security of their personal data when shopping online. Okay, so this is something that we can put into place. It is owned by BSI. Okay, and organisations that have an association with Kitemarks do have a better relationship with consumers. 67% of them do say that they will trust a product more and be willing to pay more for it if it carries a BSI Kitemark, and as the statistic says there, up to 26% increase in price premiums. The one thing that you have to understand about this particular Kitemark is that you have to have certification to ISO 27001. Do you have to have ISO 27001 certification with BSI? No, not necessarily, but it has to be an accredited certification body that you've got it with. So they would have to come under the auspices of UCAS. Okay, so that as a minimum, you're going to have that ISO 27001 certification and that tick and cross from a UCAS accredited certification body. Okay, you will also have to undergo penetration testing against the Open Web Application Security Project, which is currently at version 2. So the penetration testing, as it says there, consists of black box and white box testing. So the difference between those being, penetration testing where we know nothing about your organisation, okay, and we just try and somehow manage to gain information about how attackers could carry out a breach, and then whiteboard testing, where we've got some information about your organisation, so that we can actually help you improve. Okay, it uses a common vulnerability scoring system to calculate the result. So that is basically on a scale of 0 to 10. Okay. So where there's no security, you would have a score of 10. Okay. If you get a score of 7 or greater, that means the application is so insecure you can't get a Kitemark. If it has a vulnerability score of 4 to 6.9, then we're going to class this as a minor issue. Then you may gain your Kitemark if you can detail the necessary corrective action plan that you can put into place to mitigate and resolve the minor non-conformity. If it's below 4, we're going to say that it's got a low possibility of a fraudulent act being carried out. Okay, and it is led by a tester that's qualified as a CREST, right, a CREST accredited penetration tester. Okay. Does it offer 100% security? I'm going to say no, not 100%. Hackers are continually improving themselves, the way that we continually improve our management systems. New system flaws can be identified, after we've put things in place. The threat landscape, in all honesty, is perpetually changing. All the time, new ways are coming out, and in all honesty, so is the attack face of your organisation as you change focus, as you alter your business, as you deploy new systems, as you become more and more reliant on technology. Okay, so that's how you would get the Kitemark for any digital applications or digital transactions that you wish to do. What are the benefits? Well, it absolutely demonstrates commitment, to be proactive, okay, when it comes to managing risk. It can give you a competitive edge. If you're going to use or have the choice of two applications that you're going to use to manage transactions over the internet, and one of them has a Kitemark, the chances are the consumer is going to choose the one with the Kitemark. It does make sure that as well that you have regular thorough testing. Okay, so you're going to go through or provide evidence of testing on a quarterly basis. Okay, so it will be regularly testing your applications to assess how they are coping. Okay, and the consumer confidence, in any company that carries a Kitemark. The process. This is quite generic for the Kitemark itself. We certainly as an organisation will analyse your need for it to be in place. We'll identify which particular Kitemark that you're going for and discuss the timescales with you. This will depend on scope as well. So what is the scope of the Kitemark that you wish to cover? Okay, we can hold a workshop for all your stakeholders, your interested parties, maybe the funders who are going to pay for this, and we'll agree on the assessment areas. Okay, once the contract has been drawn up and put into place, a project plan will be drafted. Okay, and then there'll be a purchase order created. Once we've got and done the assessment of the management system, okay, as part of the assessment, we'll do the evaluation on a sample basis. If we're going to recommend a Kitemark, it will come back to our certification place at BSI, and they will have the final say as to whether the Kitemark is actually awarded. I'm going to bring this webinar to a close. Thank you very, very, very much for your attendance, and bye-bye.